Welcome to Book 3 of Learn Violin Fast. This is Lesson 1, 2, and 3. Part 1, learning to play with high threes. We're going to learn how to play with high threes, the typical map that uses high threes, which is A major, and then exercises with high threes on the G string. Now we'll learn how to play with high threes. The index and middle fingers will be whole steps. If you play with tapes, they will be placed on the tapes. And to play a high three, you need to stretch your ring finger away from your middle finger and towards the bridge, making another whole step from the middle to right finger. So in other words, 1, 2, and 3 are going to be whole steps. Let me see, make sure you can see it. Going to be whole steps. Before we had a whole step between the pointer and the middle, and the 2 and 3 was a half step. Now they're going to be all whole steps. So this is how your typical tapes were looking. And now your 3 is going to be, you notice how my third finger is moving towards the bridge. Now it's going to be open string to the 1 is a whole step, 1 to 2 is a whole step, and 2 to 3 is a whole step. To play high threes, you're going to need sharps on C sharp on the G string, G sharp on the D string, D sharp on the A string, and A sharp on the E string. Now we're going to go to lesson 2. And remember that to create an equal and opposite reaction for each action. So anytime you stretch a finger, such as a high 3, it will typically pull up the rest of the hand. Make sure to keep your hand in place and check your force vibration, and don't allow yourself to play sharp because you're stretching certain fingers and not pulling the hand back to counter that stretch. So it's similar to when we spoke with low 2s in book 2, low 2s will pull fingers down. When you have to stretch your 3s, that usually will pull everything up, and we end up playing sharp. So if you play with high 3s, make sure you relax, you stretch your finger, but then be sure to keep the 1 and 2 in its proper place. If you don't do anything about it, you don't pull it back, you will start to play really, really sharp on a regular basis. It's a very common mistake, and you can avoid it just by being mindful of keeping everything after stretches back. So the typical map with high threes, map, I mean where the fingers go, is A major. A major has, remember, it's a third string. G major has 1 sharp, D major has 2 sharps, A major has 3 sharps, and E major has 4 sharps. So A major has F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. If you look at the map on the book on page 8 in book 3, you'll notice that the open G is crossed out. Why do you think the open G is crossed out, and why don't you have an open G? If you're thinking because it has a G sharp in the key signature, you're absolutely correct. So that's going to be a low 1 if you have it. Your 1s are going to be all on the tapes. So your 2 are going to be all on the tapes. This is where it gets interesting. In A major, you're going to have to stretch your 3 on the G string to a high 3 on the D string, but A and E strings will have regular 3s. So note that in A major, there's no open G. Every G is raised a half step by the G sharp. And G and D strings, your third fingers have to go above the third tape. We're going to play high 3s. And we make the most mistakes when there are changes. You'll notice a very common theme in all these lessons. Changes is what we really need to make sure we're aware of. So to be sure to switch to and from a regular 3 on the D and A strings and a high 3. So in the diagram, the high 3 on the D string and the regular 3 on the A string is highlighted because when you switch back and forth in your music, that is the most common source of mistakes. Lesson 3, exercises on the G string with a high 3. Everything that you see here will be a high 3. So 1 is a whole step from the open string on the mark. 2 is a whole step on the mark. 3 will be past the mark. And then you also, I think, will have some pinkies. So remember to be sure that the 1 on G makes open A and open E forced to vibrate. So as you stretch, keep checking that your 1 is in tune with the open A. Exercise number 3, straight through. Ready, go. going to turn the page. This is on the second page of exercise 3. So you notice how the last exercise of number 3 had lifts, had much faster moving notes. I had to stretch my ring finger to get to the sharp, C sharp, but I kept the 1 back so that the open A is forced to vibrate. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lessons where we'll continue using high threes on the rest of the strings.